Hello, and welcome everybody back to another episode of the Unily podcast. Today on the agenda, recapping the incredible employee experience event Unite 23. But before we jump into the details, my two wonderful podcast co-hosts, Sim and Kaz, how are you both doing this morning? Or this evening? Sorry, Sim.
We're good. It's nice to be all back together again, even if it is virtually for the podcast, but good to see you guys.
Good to see you too. Kaz, how you feeling?
Good. We've been seeing a lot of each other now, haven't we? Went from not seeing each other to after Unite.
I know. It's great. It's good. I'm really enjoying it.
It starts to put the connections back together. You forget like the value of once you come up with ideas, spend time with each other. It's like it's a multiplier effect, and it's nice.
It is. It's really good. Well, it's great to be back on an episode of the podcast. Obviously, we took a small break for the massive event that is Unite 23. I know that takes a lot of effort from all of us to pull off. But let's talk about Unite 23 a little bit. I mean, 2 whole days jam-packed full of content. Now I'm seeing in my notes here 3 parties. Am I missing a party? Was there a secret third party I was invited to? Day 1 after party, day 2 after party.
We did have our little the VIP one, which you were at, Matt. You just don't remember that one.
I just don't remember that one. That is
funny. That
move swiftly on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, so I mean, what an incredible event. I mean, you know, when we talk about employee experience, obviously we're coming at it through the lens of digital employee experience platforms, you know, tools that really kind of connect and bind organizations together, you know, elevate their comms and engagement strategies, those kind of things. And in that regard, I believe it was one of, if not the largest employee experience gathering to date, which is like quite an accolade, right?
I think it's really cool because I think we didn't anticipate it. We know like we always deliver events really well, and Unite always has a buzz around it. But it just like once we sold out as well, there was that massive waiting list as well, and we did everything we could to get people on.
I mean, shout out to our marketing team who coordinated it all. I mean, it seriously was a lot of hard work. I mean, it certainly paid off, but I mean, when I first saw the venue they'd picked, I was like, that place is huge. You know,
Chantal Ogden, who did from Wipro, who did one of our keynotes. I heard a recording where she said like there was an energy around employee engagement there that just couldn't be bottled, and I think that was kind of testament to like what was created.
Yeah. I mean, more than 500 in-person attendees. That's absolutely crazy. So, you know, I guess we should really start by thanking everyone who turned up. I mean, you know, without all of the amazing attendees that came, that participated, that, you know, got involved in all the sessions, thank you to you for making Unite 23 possible and for bringing that amazing energy to the space. I mean, it's, you know, the conference space and the Unity team are one part of it, but a big part of that energy, that what you just said, the essence that can't be bottled, that comes from the amazing attendees that showed up as well. Okay, so Unite 23 is passed. And maybe you were unfortunate enough to have missed it. But Kaz, we do have that covered, I hear. Can you tell us a little bit more?
Yes. So hopefully when this recording comes out, but there are already recordings out there, we can access Unite 23 content on demand. So you can go to unily.com/insight/on-demand, something like that, but you can find it from the main navigation. And basically, we've got all the sessions there. If you go to the Unite 23 page, you can actually see the full agenda in order, click through, you can listen to the whole conference in order if you want, or alternatively, you can like pick and choose the sessions which most interest you, or actually if you were at the conference and you had to kind of divide and conquer your time, you want to go back and listen to something that you missed out, then you can click, listen, watch it on YouTube. It's great. And I actually rewatch some of the sessions because sometimes there's so much learning in a session. You're like, I'm sure they said something really interesting around this. Just to go back and get the timestamp is pretty cool.
Definitely. I mean, and Sim, Kaz mentioned there, divide and conquer. We had the very popular choose your own adventure style when we talk about the conference recap. Can you remind people a little bit about like how we kind of structured the conference in terms of sessions across the 2 days?
Yeah, definitely. I think choose your own adventure was the term of the conference.
It
But
was.
essentially, it's just being able to choose different tracks that we had and relevant to different topics, even different audiences that we had in the room could pick, and even teams divide and conquer, as Kaz mentioned. But we had our comms track, which is really all around comms and engagement and all that kind of stuff. We had our tech track, which is pretty much in the name, and then our deep dive track, which is really some people from Unily talking about the product, diving deeper and learning more about that. So as Kaz mentioned, you kind of want to go back and watch all of them, I think.
Yeah. Do you know, the really cool thing I think about the deep dive track especially is that they did lots of kind of activities, like, you know, where you could kind of trial, you know, different challenges, like, you know, build your own information architecture style experience, things like that, which was, you know, really cool. So I thought I was kind of the hands-on element of the deep dive track was very good. But of course, all tracks were amazing, it has to be said. And then we came together for those keynotes in the main room. And the main room was just amazing. The LED wall, I mean, incredible, right, Kaz?
Yeah, it was like, it was not just a real conference, like it was an amazing, massive conference. Like it was just the buzz in there, also the professionalism of like the AV teams and everything digital. People got so many good pictures with so like the Unite backgrounds and stuff that I've been seeing on LinkedIn, which I'm like, us three were probably just like buzzing around all day, going from A to B, from room to room. But like people had a real good time in the kind of breakout areas, getting some nice food and drinks, and the alcohol was flowing from like 3 p.m. I think. So I hear.
Yeah.
That wasn't us, that was the venue.
Yeah, that was the venue. Yeah. This is not a Unily thing. Okay, so all the drinks aside for a moment, just for a moment, let's talk about best bits. I mean, I know it's hard to pick. Jam-packed conference, but standout sessions, or even key moments or takeaways from sessions that you want to share with our listeners at the moment. Why don't we go to you first, Kaz? I feel like, you know, you interviewed a couple of celebs as well, so you've probably got some good ones in the bank.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think all of our keynotes were so strong. I think everyone knocked out the park. I think Stephen Bartlett, obviously, I have a bit of a sweet spot for. And I think what's really great is that like we do just follow the flow in conversation, and I always hear things that he says. I'm like, actually, I'm going to pivot. And when we got onto AI and ChatGPT, I asked him, you know, do you personally use ChatGPT? I think we got so many good insights into how he builds a team culture that's around experimentation. That was so interesting for me. I think he said when ChatGPT came out and it exploded, he had an emergency meeting in the middle of the office on that day. And then he like sent his team home for the weekend, told them to come back on the Monday with like how they used it. And I think like that's like a really great way to work with disruptive technologies. And like it's a real insight into how you build a culture around that as well.
Yeah, that is really cool. That's really good as well, because it's kind of like, you know, really powerful kind of all hands style collective working as well, which I find really interesting.
Yeah, he spoke a lot about the power of kind of working together, and he kind of, a lot of what he said was about nuance. It's like we keep talking about hybrid work, remote work, everyone's in one bucket or the other, but actually the answer is much more nuanced. And that's kind of what he said, is like his teams are empowered to work from wherever they want, but they understand the value of being together. And you kind of see that kind of connection and culture and belonging, especially when he talks about that ChatGPT example as well. So I learned a lot around how we all love Stephen Bartlett, and we know the values he stands for and his first principles, which you spoke about very early. But what we got real insight into is how does he actually embed that in his team and empower his team to embody those values. And I found that so interesting.
Yeah, he's a really kind of passionate and inspiring speaker. I thought, the audience really resonated.
Captivating.
Yeah, really resonated with the audience, and they were kind of all, to see kind of a room full of 400 or 500 people all nodding along intently was pretty impressive. So and he did an amazing meet and greet afterwards. He really spent time at the conference, meeting people, everything like that afterwards, which I thought was
He did. I
really
ran
nice.
I ran a whole hour-long session after that interview, and I came out of that session, and he was
still
still around
there.
taking pictures.
Yeah, taking pictures.
Which is so nice,
A really cool kind of like, I wouldn't go as far as to call it viral, but like an employee experience viral moment happened where somebody couldn't attend day 2 of the conference because they were unwell. Did you see? And Stephen Bartlett recorded a
little cameo.
wishing him all the best.
I did see that.
That was really cool.
So cute, yeah.
Talk about, creating connections. That was really cool.
Yeah, he really cares. It's really nice.
Yeah. So what about you, Sim? Favourite bits? What were the standout bits for you?
It is a really cheesy answer, but there were so many great bits from Unite. And I even think with each of our keynote speakers, there were what I like to call golden nuggets that came out of each of the speakers. And so I'm just going to pull a one-liner that I loved that Stephen Fry said, and also got so much great feedback from attendees about Stephen Fry as well. But he's pretty much said technology is a verb and not a noun because it's always moving. And I kind of felt like that was also the essence of our conference, and it really set us up from the beginning. And even just having all these great sessions come together and see where we've come from, where we're going, just this whole idea around it moving was, I thought, a great concept too.
Yeah, Stephen Fry was, I agree with you. I thought that was a great quote to pull out, and it's very true. And I also thought that Stephen Fry was a very impressive speaker as well. It was almost like being like in a lecture with a famed professor or something, the way he kind of goes about talking in detail and almost educating a room full of people in a really kind of, I guess, quite an intense way, which kind of reflects, I think, his strong beliefs on the topics he's talking about. It was really, really kind of compelling. His views on AI, especially, I thought were really great too.
You got to pose some questions to him as well, didn't you?
Yeah, and as with your statement about Stephen Bartlett, I went in there with a bunch of prepped questions. Then I sat down. The first thing I think I said was, okay, I'm going to not use any of these now. I've got some other questions that have come to mind. But no, I mean, there's a certain level when you run these kind of interviews. I think there's a certain need for you to kind of respond in the moment to the energy of the room, the kind of dialogue that's being, bubbling to the surface. A bunch of, notes around what someone's going to cover in their presentation doesn't really give you the full picture of what kind of sentiment and delivery you're going to get, and therefore what kind of questions are going to work really well. But I mean, that's all part of the fun, I think, of hosting really inspiring speakers. So that was cool. And I mean, I'm going to throw in a couple of my favorite bits, actually. One, I would like to point out, and do you know what? This is a funny one, but I would like to point out the fact that I think the food was pretty good. I think conference food generally is not great, okay? Like, anybody who comes and says, hey, our food is going to be incredible at this conference, they're probably lying. Our food was pretty good, I thought. Like the Nourish bars that were set up all over the place. They created good spaces for people to kind of gather and chat as well.
And snack as well.
Yeah, and snack, which was usually I lose weight at the conferences from running here, there, and everywhere. But every time I was walking between a room, I was probably picking up a snack on the way. So. Yeah,
oh God, it was so good. But that's an aside. That's an aside. That's not my favourite bit. I would like to retract that now. But I think that I really enjoyed hosting the Future of Digital Employee Experience panel.
That was like that was like an all-star panel, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. And you know, the really cool thing about panels generally, and I know you did panels as well. But like, I love it when sometimes there's a little bit of contention and people don't necessarily always agree. Those things are really good. And specifically on that digital employee experience panel, we did have kind of like industry kind of consultancies and, you know, boutique consultancies, analysts and people like that. And it was a really cool kind of coming together of the minds. You know, they were kind of talking about, you know, big blunders to avoid when it comes to assessing digital employee experience and things like that, and kind of just giving really good baseline guidance that anybody in the room could just grab and run with. And I thought that was just like really cool.
Can I also say that I feel like our audience asked really great questions as well. Like they were coming in.
Yeah, they did, Sim. You're so right. Any questions in mind that you saw come through in one of your sessions that you thought was a really good one?
No, but I loved the fact, that we had the ability to ask questions, but also people had the ability to upvote them, and they were flowing in because, I mean, between us, we were facilitating a lot of Q&A. But I loved that we had so many options to pick from, and it just showed that people were interested in what was being said, and hopefully they were going to get the answers that they were looking for too.
I mean, for me, I have to say this. There is one question that was asked by an audience member, which I thought was probably the best question ever in the conference. Maybe that's unfair. Maybe I haven't seen them all. But like the one I saw was in Stephen Fry's session, and somebody said, you talk about this tsunami of AI, climate change, all kind of rolling in onto the beach, and we're not paying enough attention to it. And then somebody put in a question that said, if we lived in a Fry dictatorship, how would you choose to address these problems? And then I was like, I threw my questions out the window. I'm going straight to this one because that's a really cool. Okay, so you know this tsunami's coming for us. How do we tackle it? You know, and then of course Stephen Fry answered with grace, intelligence, and really kind of just nailed the answer. But it was such a great question. If you wrote that question, comment on this episode of the podcast. We'll get in touch. Maybe
he had a great answer for it as well. He
did.
He had a great answer for everything. So
He did. I think the other thing as well that's worth calling out is all well and good, you know, having favourite sessions, but there were so many great presenters who were just talking about their own digital employee experience journeys. So, I mean, you mentioned Chantel Ogden, and there were like so many others. I know Kersner did a great session, for example.
Yeah, they mapped out and this only happened quite last minute, but basically they mapped out their resorts employee engagement against their adoption of the Unily platform, and there was like a direct correlation.
Yeah.
And like that was quite compelling on the screen to be like, we talk about data and insights, but this is ultimately the reason you want data is you want improved employee engagement. Yes. And to find that correlation was sick.
Yeah, really, really cool. Who did either of you host any other customer speakers?
Yes, I was lucky enough to host a few. I'll point them out because I think they were actually great. I thought the team from Farm Credit Mid-America, they were talking about collaboration, but they had just so many Lord of the Rings little memes in their slides. I think that they should have talked about engagement because everyone was so engaged in their session. It was hilarious. Like, I loved it. But also just the insights that we got from that as well, I thought were really good.
They carried the energy as well, I thought. Like, I'd see them in the morning at like 8 a.m. or whatever, thinking like, oh, it's 8 a.m. And then like I'd speak to them like, oh, I'm ready to go.
Yeah. Do you know what? When I first met them, it was with the magician. You know, that ridiculously good. We discovered the source of true magic. And, you know, it's this guy. He just wanders around, just blowing your mind.
If you haven't heard the story from Matt, you've got to ask him. I'm pretty sure he's told it 100 times already.
Anyway, we will post a link to his bio somewhere as well, I'm sure, so that you can hire him for your own parties. I mean,
he was really good.
It was ridiculous. Cool. So, be good to talk a little bit about the, can you guys share any insights around the kind of behind the scenes kind of bits, things that like maybe not everyone was privy to, or like just kind of little connections or moments that we had? Kind of, it'd be good to give a sample because it's a good taste of what other people can expect when they come to Unite 24.
Yes. I have like a couple of kind of behind the scenes moments. One is like quite a personal one, which is quite cool because last year after the interview with Stephen Bartlett, we had like, it was in the studio, we had some time to kind of like talk through the interview, discuss loads of different things, and get some pictures and things like that. This year I didn't really have that time because we had some other sessions. But what I did is I had my book and I left it in the green room and I put a note on it saying, sorry I didn't get to chat after, but would you mind signing it? And then he literally like, I finished my session, went back into the green room, and he'd signed it with the sweetest message, which was like, you're amazing at what you do or whatever. And it was just so nice. So that's obviously like quite a personal one. But also I think like the after party. Oh, actually, I have a really funny one that I've just remembered. on the first after party, so not even the real afters. So we had a whole day to go. I was interviewing Stephen Bartlett in the morning. So I was with like Kim England from Pearson and quite a few of the Pearson guys and all these people, and I think Spice Girls came on at the after party, and about 10 of us just started getting up dancing. And I'm just thinking, like, this is why we do it for the learning, of course.
Yeah, not just for Spice Girls.
Not just for Spice Girls, but, like, you forget the value of, like, just having fun with different colleagues from different spheres and partners and things like that. And it's so lovely. And in the morning, just seeing Kim, like, morning.
I mean, as the first music concert I ever went to, Spice Girls, I fully endorsed
I'm
that
so
moment.
jealous.
Yeah, I know.
I'm so
People
jealous.
would kill for that experience.
That's a moment
these
in
days.
history.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. There we go.
That explains why you were asking everyone what Spice Girl they were as well, Kaz.
Oh yeah. I was asking everyone what Spice Girl they were. We said who did I tell you were? I said
I don't know, but you were guessing.
Yeah. I was guessing, but I was quite accurate, I thought.
Nice, that's awesome. What about you, Sim? Any kind of like little moments that really kind of resonated and sparked for you?
Yeah, definitely. I think when talking about being in person, really little things are just having people smile back at us in the audience when we're hosting and presenting or whatever. I really love just looking out into the crowd and having people smile back, hopefully. But even just to meet so many different people, and even a lot of people that I've met via Teams or via LinkedIn, and everyone, just to see them and be like, hey, I know your name so well, but just to get your face and be like, hey, do you want to get lunch today? Again, Matt, shout out to the food. But even just those little moments of being together.
I agree with you, Sim. I think 100%. Like
The laugh thing is actually, because when you're in the studio, if you don't make a joke, there's no reaction to that. So you don't know if you're funny.
Yeah.
Kaz usually laughs at my jokes.
Yeah, I know that sensation all too well.
And so like it's kind of a bit of you have something to work with. So you're like, oh, that's funny, and then you get like going on a bit of a high from that. Versus like you're in a studio, like make a joke, silence. Yeah, I was there having to laugh at Sim's jokes, even though they weren't funny. I'm joking, they were.
So I know we're almost at time, and there's a couple of final bits I want to discuss with you both. I will say this though, in terms of those small kind of moments that happen, a really cool one that happened for me. We had Cheryl McKinnon from Forrester came to attend and was just enjoying the content, networking with people and just kind of hearing stories from the front line, I guess. And I had a moment where I was with Sam Marshall and Susie, and then we bumped into Cheryl, and then we had they operate not in identical spheres. I mean, Cheryl's a leading analyst, and the Clearbox team do consultancy. But we had this moment where we met, and Cheryl and the Clearbox team had met a few years prior, like quite a long time ago. And they were like, oh, like we spoke a little while ago. And they all had this like moment of recollection. And then they were meeting in person back at Unite. So it's amazing to see like old connections reestablished through chance meetings in corridors.
And not to mention even us meeting. That was my first time
That was the
meeting Matt
first
Boyd
time.
in person.
My God, that was
Oh my God, yeah, of course. Because
crazy.
last year it was the New York, London.
New York,
and then
London,
you know,
dual
I completely
locations.
forget. You almost think you've met, but like...
New connections and old connections.
It's all about connections. And one final shout out, beyond the food, awards. The awards were amazing. We love celebrating the kind of amazing stories that people are willing to share with the community. So I think the awards were really awesome as well.
It's the internal teams that usually don't get that external recognition. They get like slept on, but they put in so much effort, and to be able to kind of like extract those stories and be like, actually, you guys are doing something amazing, and recognizing that is really special.
So true. Now, we would be remiss if we did not cover the whiteboard of ideas for speakers for Unite 24. I mean, first off, let's say to the audience, Unite 24 confirmed. We're obviously gonna need a bigger boat, for those of you who get the reference. But Unite 24 definitely confirmed. But then we had a whiteboard for who would you like to see at Unite 24. I think some of the suggestions were pretty good, in my opinion. Some that I'd put in there myself.
I saw Kaz's name on there as well.
Yeah, I put that myself.
I did. Yeah, you've got to have Kaz back as a guest.
Got to do your own PR.
Okay, so why don't we all pick one name that we saw put on the board and just give a quick pitch on why we think they'd be good.
So I'm gonna go for one jokey name and one serious name, because I saw like there are some really funny names on there. Like someone put Doja Cat. Someone put Kim Kardashian on there, and it wasn't even me, I promise.
Oh my God, Kim Kardashian. You know what? I reckon Kim Kardashian would be really interesting.
About branding.
Brand
employer
identity.
brand identity. Oh my God! See,
Yeah,
Kim,
personal
if you're watching
brand
this,
in the workplace. Kim,
Exactly.
hit us up. We'll be in touch.
we know you want to. So I really I've changed my mind as it's gone. Some people have said like Stephen Bartlett round 3, which of course I support. But also I don't know, like maybe like Simon Sinek or someone like that.
Simon Sinek would be very cool, really interesting, love his content, and would absolutely be inspirational for our audience. I think
It's funny that you said that as well, because I was packing up some books and one of them was his book, and I thought, this was yesterday, and I thought, he would be a great speaker at Unite.
He would. I mean, I saw someone put on there Brian Cox.
Yes.
And I thought that would be awesome. I'm not entirely sure what the angle is yet.
But it's a bit like Stephen Fry. Like some people were like Stephen Fry at the conference, but these people that really know, like they know a lot about a lot, and they know how to pull strands and tell something compelling. So I support that too.
And still, one of my favourite ever guest speakers we had was Tan France.
Yes.
And I think a shout out to Tan France, by the way. You're awesome. And your session at Unite years past was awesome. And it was called The Power of Difference, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
And I thought that was such a compelling and really interesting and thought-provoking session. And then somebody else put on the board another speaker suggestion for RuPaul. And I thought, actually the narrative around being able to bring your full self to work and how that adds great power, innovation, and strengthens our mental health and all of these associated topics, which are all about not having to wear a mask in the workplace. I thought it could be a really interesting conversation to be had with RuPaul on that topic potentially.
Sure, I support that.
Yeah, me too. Okay, cool. So RuPaul, it's going to be RuPaul.
We've decided.
Yeah, it's been decided. Unanimous vote. So loads of great ideas. So thank you for everyone who shared those at the conference.
Sim, what do you think?
Well, I'm going to throw a little bit of a spanner in the works. Someone that wasn't on the whiteboard, or maybe like a group of people, but I really love sport. And a book that I really love is called Legacy, which is about the All Blacks, which is the New Zealand rugby team. And they've won a lot of games, and it's really about insights around their culture and how they win and how they play as a team. I would love to get an All Blacks rugby player, whether that's past or present. I would love that.
Do you know what? Like, I completely see the value as well. A big part of what we're talking about is bringing people together, and what stronger connections do we see than on sports fields in team competition, where they're really coming together to overcome, challenging odds. And I've seen interesting kind of similar topics of discussion before. Gartner had Arsene Wenger, and as an Arsenal fan,
yes,
that's probably gonna lose some audience members now after that. They had Arsene Wenger at Gartner, didn't they? Talking about a similar topic, which is like.
But on a serious note, it is valuable because like it's Stephen Bartlett spoke last year about connecting dots outside your spheres. And so, like, whether it's sports, whether it's like media and acting, those sorts of things, sometimes it's important to get people that can provide perspective on your sphere from outside your sphere. And I think that's a really good angle. So go Sim, I support your All Blacks.
Okay, cool.
Or any sport.
Or any sport. Other sports do exist.
We're going to have all the current All Blacks, RuPaul and Brian Cox. That's going to be our agenda for Unite 24.
That's going to be an interesting green room.
Yeah.
With Kaz as well.
With Kaz hosting, of course.
We'll be there. We'll all be there.
Well, guys, it's been great to reminisce on Unite 23. It was an amazing couple of days, honestly. If you were there, thank you for participating. Honestly, the conference only works because people show up, bring themselves to it, share their thoughts, opinions, insights, ask deep questions. That is the only thing that makes the conference work, really. So thank you to everyone who came and attended. If you did miss it, don't worry. You can catch up with some of the great sessions and insights. Kaz, perhaps you could summarize one last time for people who maybe missed the start of the episode. How do you get access to this content, whether you attended or not?
Yeah, so if you did attend the conference, you can actually access all that content on demand already. So you can check the links via your emails and you can go through, check anything you've missed. If you went through the choose your own adventure route, pick a different adventure this time. But if you missed out on a ticket or you just saw a talk that you want to engage with, then you can go to unily.com, go to the on-demand section of the site, and from there you can look at the whole agenda. You can follow it through in order, watch everything if you want, or just pick some key sessions, put your details in, and you'll be able to access that content on demand, watch it, and let us know what you found interesting as well. Get involved in the debate on the next speaker as well.
Yeah, 100%. Cool. Well, for today's episode of the podcast, we're going to keep it short and sweet, reminiscing on the awesome conference that was Unite 23. And yeah, stay tuned for news on Unite 24. If you move fast, I'm sure we'll see you in person next year. But for now, I'm going to say goodbye to Sim and Kaz. I'm going to bring this one to a close. Cheers, guys. Thank you.